Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface and welcome to another episode of this Ferrari challenge. Today we're travelling about 200 kilometres up the road from our home of Maranello up to the northern part of Milan for the Monza Grand Prix. We've got Sergio Perez currently winning the Drivers' Championship, well currently in the lead of the Drivers' Championship over Sebastian Vettel. Obviously Vettel last time out, if you watched it in Monaco, he suffered a crash at turn 2, possibly was it about 4 or 5 laps into the race, something like that, which allowed Perez to go on and get the win, get a full 25 points over Vettel, which has put him in the lead. Vettel then won the second race of that episode in Silverstone, Perez second. There are now 4 points separating Perez and Vettel at the top of the table. In the downtime between the Silverstone Grand Prix and Monza, we have built a gearbox, so the gearbox that Vettel has now got in his car is pretty much on a par with Perez. It's a little bit under the gearbox of what Perez has got. No, it's actually, no. Yeah, it's actually just a little bit rated. It's actually rated a tiny little bit more, is what I'm trying to say there. It does need some work doing to it, so we will be able to boost the max stats. So by Silverstone, it will possibly be fully upgraded, and I think it's possibly about 25 points that we can get it to be better than the one that Perez has got. So we'll be able to see incrementally what sort of advantage that does now give Vettel. He did get up to 2/4 of a second quicker in Monza. Silverstone, they were pretty tight again, so the front wing, the rear wing and the brakes as well is what we also upgraded first. They didn't seem to make too much of a big difference time wise, so we'll see now whether the gearbox makes a bigger difference. We're 8 races into the season, there's 16 races in this season in this game. We are 182 points in front now at the halfway point. We've got 326 points. It's massive. The only way that Red Bull could catch us is if we have a bunch of terrible races until the end of the series and finish 6th and 7th, and Red Bull finish every race 1 and 2. Obviously that's not going to happen, so a lot of people already cracking open the champagne bottles in Maranello. Do I want to get as cocky as that at the moment? Possibly not. We did have the title pretty much sewn up last season. We were quite far ahead. Obviously we went with the idea of not upgrading the car and that we were going to go for a really strong season this season. It didn't really bite us in the butt too late into the season, but it was a lot of driver errors. We started getting a lot of crashes. Vettel and Raikkonen hit each other at one point, which saw them both drop out really far down the order. If that hadn't have happened, we would have won the title last season. Hopefully we're not going to get any more incidents like that. Monza, we didn't actually win Monza last season. I can't remember how many races we actually won last season. Were they all won by Sebastian Vettel? I think they were. We actually won 9 races last year. Monza was one of the races we didn't win. That, along with the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, obviously Villeneuve, they were the 2 tracks that we really wanted to win last season. Saying that I wanted to win them meant that we didn't actually win them. So saying that I want to win Monza is giving me a sort of dread that Vettel and Perez are going to hit each other at some point and we're not actually going to go on and actually win this race. But we're going to get to see that now. We're going to jump. Are we going to jump straight in? No, what's happened with the HQ? The HQ, the handling centre has been built. That is all that's happened here. Handling development centre has been built, which means we can build a really nice suspension now, which is what we're going to concentrate on once we've got an engine building at the moment, which will put Vettel on a par with what Perez has got, and we'll be able to see that performance increase. It's not going to be ready in time for Silverstone, I don't think. We're not going to be able to get reliable enough to actually put in the car. But the episode after this one, we'll be able to see what sort of a difference an engine makes to the car as well. See whether Vettel can get like up to half a second quicker than Perez. It won't give us a good idea of what sort of like 20 points to an engine can do. Well, actually it's more like 50 points is the engine that Vettel's going to be getting over the current engine. So we're going to be able to see what sort of difference it makes time wise to the car when we have a really good driver in it, and we'll be able to judge that by how much quicker he goes than Perez. So anyway, we're going to jump right into Monza now. I'm going to run practice qualifying and we'll come back for the grid lineup in just a moment. So here we go with the grid for the 2017 Monza Grand Prix. As I said before this race, when I say I want to win a race, it sort of jinxes it. Look at this, the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton really starting to catch us now. He's only just under 3/10 of a second behind Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, he's managed to go quicker than Sergio Perez here, who is 3.5 tenths of behind Vettel now. So Vettel, with the little bit upgraded gearbox, has managed to pick up a little bit of time over Perez now. Hopefully this time out Vettel doesn't have his usual bad start that he's been having for the last couple of races. He's been having some really bad starts and getting stuck behind the two Mercedes of Hamilton and Sainz. But we've got a little bit of a shake up here at the front of the grid. I don't know whether this is because of the way Monza is laid out. There's not many corners on this Monza track, just like in real life. There is a few like chicanes and then long like sort of sweeping straights. But we're going to get into the grid now. So we've got Vettel, Hamilton on the front row of the grid. We've got Sergio Perez, followed by Carlos Sainz in 4th. Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull in 5th. And his teammate, Max Verstappen, in 6th. The Williams in 7th with Nico Rosberg. Nico Hulkenberg in the Force India in 8th. The other Williams and Valtteri Bottas in 9th. And Kimi Räikkönen rounding out the top 10, as usual, in the other Force India. The Toro Rosso of Julian Palmer 11th. Alonso 12th. Roman Grosjean 13th in the Toro Rosso. Kevin Magnussen in the Renault in 14th. Pascal Wehrlein, as usual, in 15th in the first manner on the grid. Danny Kvyat in 16th. Ocon in the other manner 17th. Esteban Gutierrez 18th. Carmen Jorda not on the back of the grid in the other Renault, and Marciello still struggling in this poorly power supplied Renault McLaren. What am I saying? Renault McLaren? McLaren Honda. What am I saying? Getting confused there with Carmen Jorda. But anyway, we're going to jump right into the race here, so hopefully we're going to get a good start from Vettel here. We do know that the Mercedes really like to push their car from the off, so maybe we're going to have to rethink our strategy here and go overtake ourselves and then dial back for more in the race. It means we won't be able to run high mode as long, but we sort of now Vettel's had another really bad start. Look at that from Hamilton. Hamilton just flying away there. Perez even gets past Vettel. It's another really bad start from Vettel there. Just what we didn't need in this Grand Prix. We should be able to outperform the we can't outperform the Mercedes here. We're not pushing the tyre either. We can't actually push his tyre because we can do 10 laps on a soft tyre. That is 16 laps. We can stop this race with 2 sets of softs, since there's no regulations on any sort of what tyre compounds you have to use during the race. But here we go. Perez is 1.1 seconds behind here. So we should be able to keep up with the Mercedes as they start turning down their tyres. As they start to get warmer, we'll leave it in attack mode a tiny little bit longer. We can gain on the Mercedes, so we're going to go neutral with both our cars here. I just want to see how quick our car is in race conditions compared to the Mercedes. Are we still gaining at this point, or is the Mercedes with Hamilton in better than what Perez can get out of the Ferrari? So maybe we're going to have to start thinking about going with some other upgrades to the engine, try to get that beefed up a lot more, since we can go a long way with what we can do with the engine. Maybe we should concentrate on the engine and the gearbox as well to give ourselves a lot more power to stay ahead here. We are gaining now, but Hamilton has turned down his engine. We can recover possibly about 0.10, so we're going to have to run in medium for quite a while now to sort of recover all this fuel. We're about half a second behind Hamilton. It does look like in a full race condition, for the first time, we're going to have trouble actually getting a result here. We are ahead of the rest of the field, but Ricciardo's actually coming back at us now that we've gone down to medium. So it looks like the AI has sort of made some big adjustments to really catch up with what we did in the off-season to the standard of the car that we have here this season. It looks like we're going to have to aggressively start chasing what we're doing with the engine and the gearbox to stay ahead here. Thankfully, the other Mercedes of Sainz isn't there, and thankfully we've already got that massive lead built in. Well, now Perez is almost a second behind us. Hamilton started pushing again. No, he hasn't. That's just us falling behind. Is Perez actually holding up Vettel here? I would like to let them race, but I don't know whether it's about... He's actually gaining on some of the straights. Should we let Perez... Should we order Perez to let Vettel pass here, as Vettel is our best chance of winning this race? Because his car is pretty much on a par and he's a better driver. Let's do it, because he is slowing him down a lot. We'll go team orders. I don't really like team orders, but we're going to have to here if we want to catch Hamilton. Because look at that, we're now 2 seconds behind, and Vettel should be able to catch Hamilton. Although Hamilton's pretty much burned through his first set of tyres here at the halfway point. We're going to be able to go overtake mode for a lap. We're going to wait for Hamilton to go into the pits before we do that. He's running in conserve mode now. He's going to have a real problem on this lap as he comes in. Should we try follow him into the pits here? Or should we try stay out an extra lap? Whilst he's going in conserve mode, should we hit conserve mode? Just so we can do an extra lap on this soft tyre. Because Hamilton might be coming in for a medium tyre. The AI sometimes likes to do that, even though they could finish on a soft tyre. They sometimes like to come in for a medium tyre. His tyres have dropped away now, so we're going to start gaining on him into the pits. So as he comes into the pits now, we're going to push on these tyres. We can't do it with Perez because he's going to have to stay out an extra lap, isn't he? Perez is actually going to have to stay out an extra lap, so we might have to conserve with him. Vettel's going to come in this lap. So we're going to see what Hamilton puts on his car. What sort of tyres he going to go with? He's actually stuck in the pits again here. He's actually stuck in the pits again. Why does he keep doing these mega long pit stops? Hamilton, I don't understand it at all. Right, so we don't even have to worry about that now. I have no idea what the Mercedes is doing. Whether it's because he pushes his engine early going, I don't know what is up with Hamilton's car. Right, so we can now set up this pit stop for Vettel. We can go, we've got 8 laps remaining. There's going to be 7 laps after this. We can get 10 out of a soft tyre. There's tons of tyre left here. No point risking everything. Perez, meanwhile, we want to get another lap out of Perez. Hopefully, well, there's no chance of Sainz catching up. Hamilton is still in the pits, meanwhile. Hamilton is still in the pits. We're going to actually lap him here before he gets out of the pits. What's he doing? Why is he still in the pits? And there, he's just started coming out now. It's taken a full lap. And there, Perez goes flying past Hamilton. I've no idea what is up with this Mercedes car this year. And a good pit stop from Vettel. Is gonna be out behind Carlos. No, Carlos Sainz has hit the pits as well. He's really worn his tyres down. He's gone down to 7% there, so he's lost a lot of time there. I don't know whether that's going to affect him. As we've got the Force Indias quite high up. Obviously, Raikkonen usually has problems with his car, but he's not got any problems just yet. So maybe Force India have finally sorted out their problems. Vettel should just be coming out of the pit lane at the moment. There goes Vettel out of the pit lane, second place. He is 21 seconds behind here. Should we go neutral? And got a bit of room to push as well with Perez. There's going to be no more team orders now. We're just going to let our 2 prancing horses race here. So, oh, we haven't even set up the pit stop yet, have we? We nearly went past then. Right, so we just done another pair of soft tyres. Should we go fast? It's not going to make any difference to where we are. Going to come out second place either way, it looks like. So here we come into the pits now. Perez is going to be, yeah, he's going to be behind by quite a bit here. Perez is a little bit, he's got an easy on the fuel stats, so as you can see, he's recovering his fuel a little bit better than what Vettel is recovering his fuel. So Perez is going to be able to start pushing towards the end of the race a little bit earlier than that of what Sebastian Vettel is able to do. Vettel has been on push mode on his tyres. We're going to do the same with Perez here. Is he going to be able to catch 7.5? He's going to probably start falling behind, as Vettel is now in a more comparable car to the one that Perez has got. Hamilton, meanwhile, after leading into the first stint into the first round of pit stops, he now finds himself all the way back here, struggling in 17th place. The 2 Force Indians now have dropped back. Raikkonen, let's just see if he's not having problems with his car this time, so that bodes well for what the Force Indians are going to be able to do. Obviously, the Force Indians have really been struggling this season. I think they're in 8th in the Constructors' Championship. We now got 4 laps left. We've got plenty of tyre left. Going to be able to run high mode for a little bit with Perez now, see if that sort of lets him gain any distance on Vettel. I'm not even sure running in high mode to Vettel running in medium mode, as we can see here. I don't think that's going to do much for Perez. Obviously it's not, he's keeping about the same distance, although I say that, and he's starting to catch a little bit now, but he's not going to be able to push like this for too long. And even if he is, Vettel is almost in the range where he can actually go to high mode himself. We started lapping a few cars here. We've only got a couple of laps to go. Let's see what everyone else is doing. We've got a Red Bull in 3rd, a Ricciardo, the other Mercedes of Sainz in 4th here. Hamilton has now got back up into the points. We've got the 2 Force Indias 8th and 9th. Let's just see if Raikkonen is having problems here. It looks like Force India have finally, after the halfway point of the season, have finally got up to speed here with their reliability. Rosberg doing pretty well this season in the Williams, 5th. He's not doing too badly. He's beating out Max Verstappen at the moment in 6th. Then we've got Roman Grosjean and the other Toro Rosso of Julian Palmer in 12th. Alonso, Verline and Ocon, the two managers, doing really poorly this time out. Are they still having problems? No. It looks like everyone's done one stop this time. It looks like everyone has sort of got over their reliability problems now. Other than Hamilton, for some reason, the Mercedes take really long pit stops, and I've got no clue why. No clue at all. I have to go back medium here. We're on the last lap. Vettel has got a comfortable 7-second gap here, so it's going to be 1-2 again here. Vettel comes across the line in first place. There goes Vettel. Let's try switch to Perez as he comes across the line. There goes Perez, second place. That is enough to get Vettel back on top in the drivers' standings. He was 4 points behind before. He will now be 3 points in front. Ricciardo has finished in 3rd. I think that's his 3rd or 4th podium of the season. Carlos in 4th. Rosberg 5th. Verstappen 6th. Hulkenberg 7th. Raikkonen 8th. Hamilton managed to get back up into 9th place. And Valtteri Bottas rounding out the top 10, the point scoring positions in the Williams. So there we go. Vettel just beating out Perez there. We don't have any problems with any risky parts. I don't think any of the other cars do that. The AI doesn't seem to get caught as much as it used to do. From playing the base game, the AI used to get caught a hell of a lot. I don't know whether that's the case in the lower series, and maybe up in the top series it doesn't happen as much. There we go, 1 and 2. Should that give us now a 200 point lead? Obviously, we've got that tiny amount of 3 points here, but Vettel should be able to keep extending this now. He's managed to catch up with his car. Perez managed to hang on till about round 9. This gap will start extending, I think, unless Vettel makes any more mistakes, does any more crashes. And now we've got a 202 point lead over Red Bull. Red Bull have a 44 point advantage over Mercedes, who are in 3rd place. Williams keeping up pretty well, thanks to Hamilton's, I don't know whether it's Hamilton's mistake, the pit crew mistake, whether he's got problems with a car, whether there's some sort of bug in the game that is making Hamilton take these massively long pit stops. He stayed in for almost an entire lap. A lap at Monza, 1 minute 15-ish. Something like that, 75-second pit stop. Absolutely crazy. Then the Force India actually improved. Force India, how did they get so high? I'm sure they were really struggling. Did they get a few points here? No. They actually finished right down here, 15th. I thought Force India was... No, that's the overall, isn't it? Can we get back to the race result here? Force India, 7th and 8th, so that's 10 points for them. So that has improved them quite a bit from where they were. I thought they were a lot lower than that, Force India. Maybe they've recovered since then, from what I was thinking about. Maybe that was earlier on in the season, because Raikkonen and Hulkenberg, they were having some real problems at the start of the season. But that's the end of the race. Let's just see the prize money. Of course, everyone's still really happy. Schumacher making some gains still, I would feel. He's not actually improving as much as... He's improving in some areas a little bit more than what Perez, but Perez is still improving here. Perez, we can get up to 5-star drivers, so I don't know whether to hold off with Mick Schumacher for a little bit longer. I don't know whether we're going to stick with Vettel and Perez next season. I do like Sergio Perez and I do like Sebastian Vettel. It would pay me to get rid of one of them. Maybe we'll keep one on for a little bit longer. I think Vettel's got 2 years left to run his contract. We're not gonna annul his contract. We're not gonna get rid of him, because it would cost a lot of money to get rid of him, and it's a lot of wasted money just to do that. There we go, 3.5 million into the bank now. We're going to be able to get the engine bill finished this time. I don't think we've got time to get reliable enough to get in Vettel's car, but it can work on a few other parts of the car. The HQ is... I don't think we're going to have anything built. No, there's not enough time to get the building simulator done. I don't think we've got a vote coming up this round, have we? Points for the top 5 is the next vote in 2 weeks. That's going to be after Spa. That's going to be in the next episode, which would mean that there would be points from 1st to 5th of 8, 6, 4, 3 and 2. It would really make it hard on some of the smaller teams. It would mean like teams like Force India, Renault, McLaren even wouldn't score a point during the season at all. And then the last vote is random grid. I'm going to abstain from that vote. It would, and just see what the computer decides. That would be pretty interesting next season if we had random grids there. But we're only 10 days away from Spa. I'm going to simulate up until that point, and we'll come back just before the Grand Prix starts, just to see if anything's changed, what we've done. and we'll go from there. Right, so we're here before the start of the Spa weekend. The scouting report is done on Charles Leclerc. He has been improving over the last 2 seasons. He's nearly 4-star rated, but unfortunately no one in GP2 or GP3 has given him a drive for some reason. That would, as I've said before, it would be an amazing part of the game if we could have some sort of like driver development program even, where we could sign like Schumacher, Charles Leclerc. We could put them in a GP2 team. Obviously we could put them in a Prima, or we could put them in R or something like that. It would be amazing if we could do that. As the game works at the moment, we can't do that. His marketability is pretty decent as well. That would be improvable over the course of him being with us, but we're not going to be able to put him in the seat. That would mean getting rid of Sergio Perez. Would we get rid of Sergio Perez for Charles Leclerc? The marketability is not just there for what we want for Ferrari. We want 100% marketability, which Perez obviously gives us. We would be able to get 100% marketability from Schumacher. I think he's at 100%, 83%. That would not be enough to knock us down from 5 stars, whereas 59% would put us in the 4-star range. As it is, we've got sponsors available now. Who was here before? I can't remember who was here before. It's totally gone. Anyway, we've got an offer from Martini. We've got Williams. Martini want to jump from Williams. They're offering 2.6 up front, 800,000 fixed per race. That obviously is not as good as Tag, who are wanting to jump to us from Red Bull. Obviously it's going to be ludicrous to turn down this one. We're going to go with Tag on the back of the car here. Obviously Tag were a sponsor of Ferrari in the 70s before jumping on to be the principal sponsor of Williams late 70s, 80s. Have Tag been a sponsor of Ferrari after that? I didn't recall seeing it on the car. It's totally gone out of my head. Yeah, they must have done at some point. Obviously Tag really synonymous can't even say the word, with Formula 1. But there we go, we got Tag on the car now. It's actually a pretty decent sponsor. It's got a little bit of colour in it. Unlike the other sponsors that we've got on the car, everything is just white, plain. But we're going to jump into Spa now. We're only a couple of days away from the simulator being built, but that'll be for the next episode. We're going to jump into Spa now, just see if Mercedes have caught up with us again. Last time in qualifying for Monza, Hamilton got really close to Vettel for the first time. Obviously he made a pit stop. He took a long time in the pits again like usual, which cost him the race. I'm going to see if that happens again in Spa, but obviously we're going to go Santander here. Just say 3.7 including bonuses. Obviously we pay bonuses out to Vettel and Perez, so it always comes in around about the 3.4 mark. We're going to jump into Spa now. I'm going to run practice qualifying and we'll come back for the grid lineup just before Spa, and then we'll see how we get on in the race. So here we go with the 2017 grid for Spa. Vettel in pole again. He's now got that 0.35 second gap over Sergio Perez. That seems to become quite common with the car setup that Vettel has got. So can we say that it was a quarter of a second behind with the previous setup? But Perez did get close to that again. So maybe with the change to the gearbox that we made, that has made a 0.3 second difference almost. Could we say that? Hamilton meanwhile here in third has dropped back to 3/4 of a second. So the Mercedes might be a lot stronger at Monza, where there are not very many turns in the engine and gearbox, which is possibly what they're not so far behind us in. That makes a difference to their Mercedes. Obviously back now at Spa where there's a lot more corners. Obviously there is Kemmel Straight, even in this version in Motorsport Manager, that it is still the Eau Rouge and Kemmel Straight part of the track, which the Mercedes should be strong in. So it's going to be quite interesting to see whether we can sort of keep that. We're going to have to run him. Actually, yeah, that's made my mind up. We're going to have to run in overtake mode from the start just to make sure we can get up Eau Rouge and Kemmel Straight without losing any position to Hamilton here. We don't want Vettel making another bad start and losing position. We don't want Perez losing position either. But anyway, we'll go on with the grid now. So Vettel, Perez on the front row. Hamilton, Ricciardo round out the second row of the grid. Sainz and Verstappen as usual in 5th and 6th. 7th should be Rosberg as usual in the Williams, followed by Kimi Raikkonen doing a little bit better in 8th. Obviously that is because from having Raikkonen last season, he does have the expert at Spa stat, so that obviously has made a big difference to him now. He's usually about 10th on the grid, so that's made him in his Force India a little bit better. Managed to get up into 8th here. A bit interesting to see what he can do in the race. Hulkenberg now in 9th in the other Force India. Valtteri Bottas rounds out the top 10 in the Williams. Fernando Alonso doing a little bit better in 11th. Julian Palmer knocked down from his usual 11th to 12th. Roman Grosjean, Toro Rosso 13th. Kevin Magnussen 14th. Verline as usual in 15th. Ocon doing a little bit better than usual in 16th. Kvyat in 17th. Cameron Jordan not on the back row of the grid in 18th. Marciello not at the back of the grid in the McLaren. And Esteban and Gutierrez rounds out the top 20 at the back of the grid in the Haas car. Haas obviously possibly more than likely going down this season to GP2. I can't remember, I think Racing Engineering are still winning in GP2, so Racing Engineering will possibly be taking their place next season, so we really need a good start here. As we can see, we've got the short run to the first corner here, and then we've got this little straight up here, and we've got this little bit that's it's sort of modelled around Eau Rouge, and then we've got this long straight with a little bit of a right hander, a little right sweeping turn. Obviously that sort of imitates the Kemmel straight there. But we're just going to have to see what we can do from the start here. We don't want another really bad start from Vettel. He's had 2 really bad starts, 3 or even 4. And he's off the line a little bit quicker here. He managed to stay in front of Hamilton. Perez though, it's Perez's turn this time to make a bad start. He's managed to stay in front of Sainz. He hasn't dropped down as far as Vettel usually does when he makes a bad start. He's usually ended up behind both Mercedes. Vettel, as it is, has managed to stay in front here. Now that we're around Kemmel straight there, we can turn back down to high mode. We just didn't want the Mercedes overtaking us down the straights, as that's possibly where they're stronger in the car. They're obviously not stronger than us overall. They possibly still wouldn't have been able to beat us down in Kemmel straight. But as they ran in overtake mode, if we were in high mode, they possibly would be quicker than us in a straight line. And we're going to be able to see that now. We're 3/4 of a second quicker here. As we hit the pit straight, we round this corner. Then we head up the straight to the little bit of track that looks like Eau Rouge here as we hit the up sort of thing. Look, and we can see that Hamilton has got within half a second on the straight here as he's running in overtake mode to our high. And then we hit the chicane at the top of the hill, which is where we can gain here because the Mercedes is probably still behind with their front and rear wing as they are at the start of the game. We can pick back up in this part of the track even though the Mercedes are running overtake mode. It's a 16 lap race again. We can possibly get, we can get 10 laps out of the super soft as well. The lowest compound, possibly due to how we've got the tyre set up. I don't know if we're in the top 3 of tyre wear. We don't have a lot of stars there, but we could be in the top 3 because we seem to be getting a lot out of this. But whatever is the softest compound during a race, you get 10 laps from. We always get 12 laps from the middle compound, and then the hardest compound of the weekend always gets about 14 laps. So we should be able to do this on a one stopper again using 2 pair of super softs this time. Perez meanwhile is a little bit further behind on Hamilton. Maybe we should conserve this fuel as we usually do sometimes. We're just waiting for Hamilton to turn down his engine because he will be going into medium mode at some time. He's possibly used, he will have used a lot of fuel as he usually does, running overtake mode for these 2 laps. And as always, when Hamilton hits the pits, is he going to have a really long pit stop as well? Do we really need to be pushing our car here that much? Obviously not. What's the the temperature's a bit low, so we're not going to be. It's going to be hard to keep the temperature in these super softs. Obviously, that's going to affect all the AI cars as well, so that's not something we really need to worry about here. We're managing to stay about a second, and there goes Hamilton. Hamilton's turned down his engine now, so Vettel is going to start to be able to get the run away from him here. There goes Vettel. Perez, meanwhile, we can go back up to high mode. We should be able to close this distance now to Hamilton, hopefully. And there we go, picking it up pretty easily now. Perez was even quicker on that last lap by 0.6 of a second. It'll be interesting to see how much quicker he is this lap. Vettel did that last lap in a 1:38.8, an absolutely flying lap there from Vettel. What's he going to be able to get out of this lap? We're coming around the last few corners here before we hit the straight down to the pit stop. Down to the pit entry. So let's just see what Vettel can do. Vettel crosses the line just there. He does a 1:39.1, Hamilton does a 1:40.4, and Perez does a 1:39.4. So Perez is almost a second quicker than what Hamilton is doing at the moment. He's 2.4 behind at the moment. 2 or 3 laps time, he should be right on the back of him and possibly should be able to pass him pretty easily down the straight, especially with Kemmel straight if we can get right on the back of him. It should happen sooner rather than later. It's probably going to be the lap after this. Although Hamilton's going to be coming into the pits pretty soon. He's going through his tyres a lot quicker than what we're going through the tyres. Even though he's been running in neutral for a long time, he seems to be going through his tyres a lot quicker. We've got 50% left. Hamilton, meanwhile, has got 44% left. So the Mercedes is not really good on tyre wear either. Perez is now 1.5 seconds and gaining. Are we going to be able to get on the back of him on the straight here? We're going to be under a second when we get to the straight. Obviously there's no DRS in this game. I don't know if the game takes into account slipstream sitting in his dirty air, but there we get up to 3/4 of a second behind him. Are we going to be able to get him back on the back of him up Eau Rouge, up Kemmel Straight, and not really gaining any time there? No, we do around that little chicane though. Around the corners we're a lot quicker than the Mercedes. Vettel meanwhile is miles out in front. We're going to be able to turn down on him. We're going to have to make this pit stop the lap after this one with Pereira, with Vettel. Should we make it this lap? There is enough in the tyre. We are pushing it. Could we do another lap in attack mode? Possibly not. We're going to go attack to the pits. Vettel is going to come in this lap. We might as well. There's no point risking anything. Vettel's going to get the first pit stop. Perez is going to go around again. He's going to get to run in attack mode. Look, there we go. We see that Hamilton has got a problem with his car at about the halfway mark of the race. The other teams seem to have got over a lot of their reliability problems, but Hamilton is still having a lot of problems. And I'm thinking that is at the cost of Mercedes desperately trying to catch our Ferrari up, in that they're aggressively pushing out upgrades. So when they build an upgrade, Hamilton gets that new best part, but obviously its reliability is obviously going to be rated about the 40% mark. Whereas Sainz, who seems to do a lot better reliability wise, possibly gets the older part that isn't as good but is more reliable, and that is why Sainz does a lot better than Hamilton for some of the races. There we go, the first pit stop's down. Vettel, he is in 5th. We're not going to risk out neutral medium. Easy enough. We might as well go to attack mode here. We've got about half a lap left. Perez and Hamilton going up Kemmel Straight. It's not going to be enough to get past him. And here we go with Hamilton. He's going to come into the pits. We're going to watch him again, just to see what happens to him after he makes a pit stop. I don't think Perez has got enough of a gap to get out in front of Vettel. No, he hasn't. He's been held up by Hamilton anyway. So we're going to go neutral. We're going to set it up for how we want him coming out of the pits. He's not going to have any chance of coming out in front of Vettel. So no. Oh no, I didn't even set his pit stop up. What am I doing? What am I doing? I thought I'd already done it, but obviously not. We're going to have to run backup mode now, so these tyres are going to drop off the cliff pretty sharpish here. I don't think it's going to be enough to let any of the other cars back at us. Is Sainz lined up for a pit stop? Sainz is lined up for a pit stop, so if Hamilton's going to take a long time here, Sainz is going to be sat behind him in the pits for a long time again. Oh no, Sainz actually gone past. Yeah, they cancelled his pit stop because... Right, so let's just see where Hamilton goes to. He's still in the pits, look. They must have to repair his engine every time he hits the pits. That is the only explanation I can think of here. Perez, meanwhile, is not going that much slow. He's about a second slower after the first sector. He's possibly going to be about 2 seconds down on his usual lap time. Obviously, that has allowed Vettel to get on the back of him. About 11 seconds behind. Sainz is still to come in. Raikkonen's still to come in. There's no chance. Ricciardo's made his pit stop, but 33 seconds is enough of a gap. Yeah, there's going to be no damage here. We're going to be out of the pits in second place. Sainz is going to dive into the pits this time. Hamilton all the way down in 20th. There's something really wrong with that Mercedes, and the only explanation I can think of is that they're really aggressively chasing upgrades, and it's really affecting their reliability performance. Raikkonen is in 3rd here. I don't think he's coming into the pit stop. I'm going to say I don't think he's made his pit stop yet. So Raikkonen doing a lot better than usual. A lot of the other cars now have seemingly got their reliability problems under check, and the only hangover is Lewis Hamilton. Raikkonen now, who was having major problems, he's got his sorted out. Vettel meanwhile has a 13-second lead. He's flying here. We can put Perez. He's got Raikkonen right on the back of him, but obviously Raikkonen, so we're not going to push anything here. We might as well push the tyres. We might as well get these tyres up to temperature. We might as well run the tyres at the right temperature. There's going to be no... The tyres aren't going to get super degraded here because they do have a lot of life in them. We've only got about 5 laps left now. So what have we got? Rosberg still doing pretty well, up in 4th place. Excuse me. Ricciardo looks like he's going to get another podium. Max Verstappen doing a lot better. Obviously, he was having a lot of reliability problems. It looks like Red Bull are finally sorted reliability-wise. Hulkenberg in the other Force India 6. We got Raikkonen managed to get in the pits and out in 7th. Carlos Sainz here in 8th in the other Mercedes. He's doing pretty poorly as well. Verline up in the points. Bottas rounding out the top 10 as usual. Marciello doing pretty well, although he hasn't made his pit stop yet either. And Pascal Verline hasn't made his pit stop. There's quite a few here that have tried to go a long time on these mediums on the first stint. Hamilton is up in 15. It looks like Hamilton's going to end up in the points again, but he's still a long way behind the field here, and it's not gonna be too long before he starts sliding down the drivers' standings as well. It's a real shame that Mercedes have chosen to go that route with upgrading his parts, because it's really affected his performance this season. It would be nice to see how far we are in front of a fully powered Mercedes with a car that Lewis Hamilton can get to the end without having to do any work on it. As it is, we don't really get an idea how far we are actually ahead of the Mercedes. We know how far we are ahead of the Red Bull. We're 20 seconds behind here. 20 seconds in front of the Red Bull over a course of a race, and possibly more than that. It's about 25 seconds at the moment, so possibly about 30 seconds. Even more than that, actually, because we could actually just go overtake mode here. We could possibly just fly away from the Red Bull over the course of a race if we actually used our full fuel tank to its full effectiveness. Obviously, we just sit back not wanting any crashes. So let's just see if we can gain any more on Ricciardo there. So Perez is 11.5 seconds in front. There is 25 seconds from Vettel to Ricciardo. Obviously, we can't run in this mode too long from Vettel, but Perez we can do because he recovers his fuel a lot better than what Vettel does. There goes Vettel running in push mode. Tyres are getting a little bit worn, but it's no problem. We can just go back down to medium now. After that one lap, there's 28 seconds there. We managed to gain 3 seconds over Ricciardo. We did a 1:36. Ricciardo did a 1:39. Perez did a 1:36 as well. We're just gaining like 3 seconds. Obviously now we have to recover this fuel, so we're going to have to run low mode from this point out with Vettel. Perez can run in overtake mode for a little bit longer. Obviously he can really push his tyres as well. Let's see how close he can actually get to Vettel before the end of the race. He's 30 seconds 12. Is he gaining? Is he gaining? He's not going to be gaining enough because we're coming on to the final lap now. Vettel just crosses the line to go into his final lap. There goes Perez. 12.5 seconds behind here. We still try to recover that tiny little bit of fuel with Vettel. We'll keep him on that just to see how close he can get behind. Rosberg doing pretty well this time out in 4th place in the Williams. That's one of his best results this season. Raikkonen has managed to do quite well this season. That's possibly one of his best results. He's going to start climbing up the order now. Hulkenberg doing well in the Force India. The Force India really coming back here now. They're really taking advantage of Mercedes' mistakes. And Vettel has just crossed the line. Here comes Perez across the line. Managed to get within 9 seconds. He managed to pick up about 3 seconds on that last lap. So there goes Perez. Ricciardo now was a full 30 seconds behind at the end, getting the last podium place. Rosberg's finished 4th, Verstappen 5th, Hulkenberg 6th, Sainz 7th, Raikkonen 8th, Bottas 9th, Hamilton just comes across the line in 10th. He looks like he only just got there. Only just getting past Palmer in the last couple of laps of the race. So Hamilton only picks up 1 point from Spa here. So Hamilton really doing poorly in this Mercedes. And as I keep saying, I can only think that they're really aggressively chasing upgrades, which is a real shame. A real shame. As Red Bull will now be miles ahead because they've hardly picked up any points from this Grand Prix now. They were about 40 points behind. Was it 46? They're going to be like 70 points behind now. Almost that. And Lewis Hamilton has finished outside the points because he's been found out to be running illegal parts. So things just keep on getting worse and worse for Mercedes here. Outside the points for Lewis Hamilton. Maybe that's going to make him a little bit better now for the next race, because if that was an engine that they've run that was risky, that was not very reliable, that will be banned now, and they will have to revert back to an engine that they have possibly managed to get reliable enough to run in a race. So maybe Lewis is going to be able to stay up with it for the next Grand Prix. That will be interesting to find out next time. But there we go, 1st and 2nd from Vettel and Perez. 10 points now between Vettel and Perez. 72 points back to Daniel Ricciardo. It's going to be Vettel pretty much does have it so well. It's definitely going to be one of our drivers. We definitely pretty much won the constructors now with 220 points ahead. Red Bull are now 61 points in front of. No, that's not even Mercedes in third. Red Bull are now 61 points in front of Williams, 63 points in front of Mercedes. Mercedes are really dropping off here. 129 points to Williams, 131 points. Force India now finishing really strongly. They're going to have a really nice strong end to the season now, confirming 5th place as theirs. If Mercedes keep on performing the way they are, then Force India might even be able to catch up Mercedes as well. Toro Rosso 6, McLaren still struggling, Renault still struggling. Manor 8 points. They've had 2 races where they finished in the points, I think, and that's been enough for them to confirm their place in Formula 1 next season, unless Haas with Gutierrez and Kvyat have some sort of amazing race where they can finish in 5th place or something. Other than that, then Haas are going down to GP2. So everyone still happy. We're nearly 100% with this mechanic relationship between Perez and Greenwood. Schumacher's still improving, but Perez still improving himself. So much so that Schumacher might have to have another season in the reserve seat. Maybe. We're thinking about it. Charles Leclerc is still in my mind as well. 3.7. I don't know why that has increased, because we took on Tag as a sponsor. So we're now increased up to 3.7 million. We've got over 10 million in the bank. I'm not sure what I'm going to do as regards to upgrades towards the end of the season. There was GP2 race results there, wasn't there? Jack Aitken still winning the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Jenson Button has managed to claw his way back into 2nd place. You think the Art GP car is the best car? Jenson Button will be the best rated driver in GP2. Whether his stats are degrading as the season goes on, because he is quite old, and once you're old in this game, your stats do degrade quite rapidly. I don't know whether it does do since the last few patches. I haven't had an old driver in a while, but yeah, Norman Nato is in 3rd. So John-Eric Verne, our old driver in the Sauber, managed to finish 2nd in that race. Looks like Prima have improved a little bit. Stroll now is in front of Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi got on the podium in that last race. So let's just have a look. Racing Engineering clearly ahead here. Looks like they're going to be coming up. Prima have recovered to manage to get into 3rd, but beating out Sauber and Russian Time. And Art struggling, even though they have the best driver and the best car, really struggling to keep up with Racing Engineering here. Whereas we've got Jake Dennis, Stern, we've got Maximilian Gunther still on top in the Genza. Alexander Rossi 2nd. Genza look like, oh, it's going to be tight between Genza and Status going in. There's still Arden and Carlin as well. That could possibly make a move towards the end of the season. But it's going to be tight between Genza and Status of who moves up to GP2. But anyway, that's where we're at for this episode. We've got the Austin American Grand Prix coming in next time. We've got Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, again, one of my favourite tracks. And it's going to be rainy in Montreal. So that is going to be an interesting race as well. Hopefully Mercedes are going to get over their reliability problems at some point, and we're going to be able to see how far we are ahead of Mercedes. I don't even know if they've got the 2nd best car anymore. No, they don't even actually have the 2nd best car anymore. Red Bull have the 2nd best car. Mercedes still do have the 2nd best engine, but Red Bull have the 2nd best gearbox. Mercedes behind Red Bull on brakes, behind Red Bull on the front wing. Red Bull actually have a better suspension than us now. I didn't actually notice that. We must be rated pretty similar since we're still at the top of this bar. So Red Bull have made some real improvements to their suspension, although the suspension is our weakest part. It is the one part that we didn't improve that much last season. Obviously we've had the handling development centre built, so that is what we're going to concentrate on. We're going to get a really nice suspension built for the end of this season, and Mercedes are stronger than Red Bull there on the rear wing. Mail, meanwhile, we don't have anything there. So that's where we're going to leave this episode. Another 1-2 finish. Mercedes still having real problems. Red Bull look like they've got 2nd sewn up. Williams might be able to make a charge and stay ahead of Mercedes until the end of the season. That would be quite interesting to see whether Mercedes have fallen that far off that they're going to finish 4th in the championship. But until next time, thank you everyone for subscribing. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button down below. Give me a thumbs up, hit that like button, and leave a comment. But until next time, I'll see you down the road in Austin for the American Grand Prix, and goodbye.